Crypto market right now is at an interesting phase, especially with the developments for XRP. It looks attractive. Look at how things are evolving, especially when it is actually about the SEC and how the tide is running against SEC here. It kind of shows like crypto is about to get massive growth. And inside that, you're looking at XRP. And when you see large amount of XRPs moving, that kind of gives you an idea of why things are happening. And that kind of gives you an idea how strong Ripple as a company is. They're still hiring. They're actually expanding into different regions. They're doing a lot of different stuff. Remember, not everyone give you the right data and the right information at the right time, because you do have things like this. See, RBC first cut the price of this Heineken, and then think about this. At noon, they had to change that and say, okay, buy this and hold. So at first they're saying, okay, the price is going to go down, sell that. After that, they're saying, no, buy it. So something happened. They did play a game for someone special to buy at a lower price point. So this is what we're talking about. That's the market, that's the manipulation. But at the same time, you're watching how things are evolving. Settling payments through an established UPI network in India for the digital rupee settlement, right? And that's Axis Bank trying to do this. And we all remember this. Axis Bank back in 2017 launches Ripple powered instant payment service. And even at this point, when you go to other banks like South Indian Bank or any other banks, and you're doing these transactions, most likely they're not doing it directly. They're actually going through these the banks who have the capacity to do it with the power of Ripple and XRP ledger. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. These are some of the important aspects which I believe you should know in terms of the market psychology, the price action, the charts, because it does show you that it is at an interesting phase, which means you need to know some of these key points so that you don't miss the idea which the market itself is presenting it to you. So before we jump in deep, let's see how many likes we get for this video. At first, we actually went up to 500, 600 likes. Then we dropped back to 400, 450, that range. Let's see how many of you really liked this video. Now, there's XRP against USD. Great. There's Bitcoin. So when we actually look at Bitcoin and put that argument like, okay, Bitcoin is coming back up. This range is active for some time. It can actually bounce back up. All that's true. So we want to see whether XRP is looking bullish against Bitcoin. Micro, that's the short term, you do have some downside. You have downside till this point. The price can reach here, which means the RSI should come back down to retest this range. Great. Now, in percent terms, how much can that be? It's a 10 to 13% drop in XRP versus Bitcoin. Now, does that mean XRP is about to drop that percentage in USD terms? I don't think so. I think Bitcoin has room to bounce off, and most of the altcoins can be slow. Why? Because you look at the Bitcoin dominance and it is bouncing off from a regional support. That's a macro region. We have been at that range from 2021. There has been a resistance. So now it's acting as a support. So we shouldn't be surprised that it is acting as a major support. Now, that's on a daily chart. We can keep the argument saying, okay, what if we go on a macro chart? What do we actually see when we take on that macro chart? What's the trend line like? You can actually put all those arguments and check for yourself. Say this is a trend line. You are close to that region. You're trying to break it. Now, you can also say, okay, what if this was not an outlier and we still have room to run? We can reach around 58, 59% in dominance terms for Bitcoin. That's an area where you'll see Bitcoin running up, altcoins getting screwed, right? We're at that range. If we get rejected, it's great for the altcoin market. It's good. But what we want to make sure is that we are breaking lower or we are breaking to the upside. Right now, the pattern shows you bulls are in control. It can still bounce higher. So we do have that idea. On the other side, we see dollar is low. It's getting rejected at that resistance. As you go zoom in onto the daily chart, you see we tried breaking higher. We got a daily close. We stayed above that, but the retest kind of pushed it a little bit lower. We would like to see it dropping below the moving average, because if not, you may get a bounce from that level. Now, that won't be great for the crypto or the entire markets, but if you actually take a look at the market itself, we discussed about this pattern when price was coming down. We kind of highlighted, imagine we are going to bounce back from here, and we are doing that. We are bouncing from that range. Why? There's a horizontal level. There's a rising trend line, both of which are acting as a support. So that's the stock market showing you, I'm trying to create a trend and stay on that trend for the moment. So we are not completely bearish at this point. Now that's DAW. You can actually go look at the NASDAQ. All of it shows you something similar. It is creating a range where it's showing like, okay, I created one bottom. I'm doing this, which usually shows, okay, I'm going higher. And now you're at this trend line resistance. So if you do get a breakout here, that is going to be massively bullish. You're going to break higher. You're going to go test the all-time highs range. And when the stock market does that, crypto market is going to follow that. And that's one of the things we clearly understand, that money is going to flow in. But we would really like to see assets responding well. Some of them, not all of them, few, very few are running against Bitcoin, one of which is Fetch here. And if you actually look at this asset and see how the trend changes, you need to look for when the trend change, how does that impact the price in dollar terms. So you're trending lower, you're trending lower, you're trending lower. You're going down each time and you're making lower highs. You're consistently doing that. The moment you actually try putting in higher highs, higher lows, something just changed. And initial phase of that change, now believe me guys, that phase doesn't actually look a lot attractive. It doesn't actually feel like FOMO is already in. This is what it looks like, right? You're at this phase, you're not finding it a lot attractive. You're like, it's not that, it's not this. But look at this. We had that range which was active, which looked like an accumulation. You broke higher. You came back to retest that, and we saw that bounce. It tested this range. As soon as you broke higher, that confirmation was in the market. And that created a huge opportunity to bounce higher. Now remember, this is against Bitcoin. So if you watch this here and say, okay, it's just a 300, 400% run up. Let's see how much it actually did in US dollar terms, right? You can actually go in to a chart of Fetch USD. So we want to actually keep our eyes focused on the date here. This is August 2020. We want to actually see where Fetch actually pushed that high. So it's at this range. Now, if you actually measure the ROI structure, you can actually see a 20x run up. Now, this is exactly what I'm trying to give you guys. If you see an asset running against Bitcoin, trending against Bitcoin, that means in USD terms, it's about to do something massive. Right. Now you're watching same. It's actually putting in lower highs. You do this, then you try testing that, you fail, you bounce up. Now you did the price actually did make a higher high. Then retested that range, it stayed there. Now from Feb all the way up to March, a month and a half, it did stay there. Then continued that run up. So if you do measure the entire run up, you'll see a 10x move here, which was actually a huge move. Now, all the way back to these ranges, you're watching something similar in 2022. You're watching something similar coming out here. Now, is that just one asset doing that? No. We are trying to go through as much as assets as possible in the crypto market so that you guys actually know what the market looks like. So if you are interested in things like that, look at the Patreon. It's going to be interesting in next few months. Why? When this asset ran up last time, we were trading it, right? We were in that trade calling a rounded bottom, then we went up. All that's true. We were going through this stuff. So now, when it actually breaks higher, keep in mind there are highly correlated assets. And with this breakout, you kind of get a macro bull flag confirmation and a pump to the upside. That can be a 5x, that can be a 10x, who knows? We'll do all those measured moves in the group for sure. I'll sit through and go through that. But keep this in mind. That means you're watching a start of something special. You have seen these kind of movements, these kind of patterns breaking to the upside and running higher. It actually depends on where it is. If it's at the first run up and a correction, that means you have a long way to go. What do I mean by that? Look at this. The price did drop like 80% for sure. It's okay. Because after that 80% drop, the price ran up 25, 26, 27x. That's huge. So if you were scared of this 80% drop in between and you dropped out of the market, you missed this run up. And that's somewhat like what we are watching right now. The price dropped 70%. It's trying to go back up. With this break higher, look at the RSI. It's already putting in a new high compared to last few months. That's like, I'm going higher. I'm having much more strength than these levels. And that's a divergence. Something is diverging from where the market values it right now. Great. Now jump back into XRP. This against USDT. Now we are here. We are trying to bounce back up. What's similar here? You had a trend. You had a range which was really active. You just broke to the upside. Now what we are watching here is that the price is coming back down to retest that range. So if we get a bounce, that means you're watching a fake out or a shakeout here, which is kind of giving you the idea that, okay, it really took all these weeks to retest just 1 week of upside. So the buyers are really strong here. You didn't actually get a candle like this, erasing all those gains. You're still here, you're still up, you're still putting in a higher low. The structure remains clear. Now what we are all interested in is to look at XRP against Ether, XRP against Bitcoin, and the same on a macro. Because when you look at the macro chart, what you're watching here is we usually get a reversal structure. So here, this was one of that. You get a breakout, you go in, that goes boom, parabolic. Great. Now you're watching another pattern, long-term accumulation pattern happening here. What's more important here is the duration, because the market do correct in two different ways. One is the price and one is the time. And time is the hard part. A lot of people get agitated with that type of correction, but it is what it is. The market is showing you the reality. Last time it was 500 days and boom, it went up, rocketed. Now you're watching the market slowing down here, and that has been like 1,450 days. That's huge. And if what we have learned from the market is true, that means the longer the consolidation, higher the momentum will be as soon as we break higher. So that's against Bitcoin. Now you look at Ether. It actually becomes even more interesting here. Why? Because you're trending lower against an asset for a long period of time. Long period of time, right? Now you're trying to break higher with a pattern where you are already putting in a higher high. And I'm really interested in this one for sure. Because if you watch, we got rejected at these levels before and we already put in a new high. Usually what happens is once you do that structural change, you come back down to test the bottom and the next bounce usually gives you a break higher. That is really interesting because you go look at Ether, you want to look at Ether Bitcoin and see whether it has that amount of strength to break higher. I have a hard time thinking like that because you're watching these trend lines and the price is literally correcting inside this. So if you're dropping, you have room to the downside. Great. Now we put that on a macro chart and look at the macro structure. Yeah, you went up for sure. You're staying in this region for 100%. You're actually staying so healthy inside that. But the creek formation is still alive, and unless you break to the upside, you still have room to the downside. Now, dropping like this against Bitcoin, maybe a 30% drop, 20% drop, is going to be normal in terms of price action. But if you do get a breakout and Bitcoin runs 10%, that means Ether is going to run double that. XRP is going to run 5 times that, because it's going to outrun the Bitcoin. It's going to outrun the Ether. And that's going to be something huge with all these news and narrative. But for sure, at this moment, when you're looking at the price action, it doesn't actually feel that euphoric. It doesn't actually look a lot like FOMO's here. Because the problem is that the FOMO actually comes in when the market goes like this, not at the support. But imagine if you did have some level of FOMO at the point where we were retesting this, say around 0.5, you actually got a bounce up to 0.9. Imagine the price came lower to this point. You got a few months to average down to 0.3. If you did, you saw your portfolio doing a 3x. Now, you're watching that the price action is trending upside. Now, you bounce here, that's going to create another level of FOMO coming back in the market. Remember, all of this is on a weekly chart. You do need a lot of patience. Now, you look at another pattern here. The price action is showing you something like this. You already broke higher. You're doing the retest, and the bounce is going to be crazy. Why? Because you do have a 10x move here. So you plot that to the upside, and it goes parabolic. It's huge. Then, if you actually look at the price action from this range, you're watching that the price is doing something like this, right? You do have that clear. That means your measured move is actually even bigger at this point. So once you break at this point of $1, let's say, what's the ROI here? If you measure that move, that's a 17x. So that takes you somewhat like $17 per XRP on that breakout. That's actually a huge move in itself. Because right now we are at 0.52, and that means you can actually see a 30 to 40x run up in XRP. Now, we are not here to try and hype the market. We're trying to look for the opportunities, the possibilities which the market is showing us. Because historically speaking, we have seen things like this, and the consolidation and the time taken, it's tough. It's tough. But the breakout and the retest kind of gave us the room to bounce through the sky. And that was a huge time. Back in 2017, it was a great time. Now we are doing something similar on a larger scale. So the upside can be bigger. Who knows? We'll have to go through that and watch the price action giving us the direction. Because if it actually shows you a macro divergence, you take profit and wait for the opposite direction. When you get the reversal signal, you enter that and you ride it till the top as long as possible. So guys, if you like the video, please do hit that like and subscribe button, and make sure you're understanding what the market looks like and where the opportunities lie in this market. I'll meet you guys in the next video. Bye for now.